What's up everybody, Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, but the biggest news this week is that Acura has revealed the 2023 Acura Integra prototype. And while this is just a prototype in typical Honda and Acura fashion, this is basically the production car. It has production car mirrors, door handles, all that normal stuff. There's only a few little details here that'll probably change for production. But first, I gotta say, I think it looks pretty good. It doesn't floor me, but it fits with the Acura design theme, and I love that it's a hatch, so it does have that kind of sportback profile to it, and that's really cool. And if you don't like the graphics or the yellow exhaust tips, those are the two details that most likely won't make it to production, so don't worry about that. But Acura revealed a few key details for now about it. So it'll be powered by the 1.5 liter turbo 4 from the Civic Si, and will have a limited slip diff in addition to the 6-speed manual transmission that was already confirmed a few weeks ago. And Acura did say that the 1.5 will be a high output engine, so there's a chance that it'll get more power than what the Civic Si does. It does have Brembo brakes on this car, so there's likely some reason as to why they feel like it needs stronger brakes over Civic Si. So, I doubt that it's because it just weighs a little bit more, and so they're upgrading them for that reason. So hopefully there is more power here, and that is, part of why we're getting bigger brakes. So, don't give up hope too much just yet. This is just going to be another 200 horsepower thing that's just heavier and more bloated. Keep in mind, this is also just the regular Integra. There will almost certainly be, a Type S version, which could potentially get one of the 2-liter turbo motors from either the Accord, the TLX, or the Type R. But even as a starting point, I think this is really a win. This is basically an SI hatch that a lot of people have been asking for, and as long as the weight isn't too much more than a Civic Si, I think that even this base Integra will be a great addition to the sport compact market here. And it also will be available with an automatic transmission, which is also another thing that a lot of people, probably have been wanting. Obviously, the Civic Si has been manual its entire life, and so, to have an automatic here with the Acura, I think that, even if it is a carryover powertrain, worst case scenario, you're still filling two key niches that people have been asking for: a hatch Si and an automatic Si. So even just filling those two gaps, I think, are logical things to do, and I think that that is a win on its own. Yes, you have to pay more for the Acura branding and the luxury experience to get those two things. It's unfortunate the Civic Si doesn't offer those, but now it kind of makes sense as to why, if they were always planning to have the Integra fill that gap all along. As far as the automatic, we don't have any details whatsoever aside from the fact that, it will be offered with an optional automatic. So it could go one of two ways. Most likely it'll either use the 10-speed automatic that other Acuras use, or that's usually paired up with the 2-liter motor, or the crazy turbo V6. So typically the 1.5 with its lower versions has always been paired up with a CVT. So, be prepared. If you do want an automatic Integra, you may end up being stuck with a CVT. Hopefully that's not the case, but they haven't paired the 10-speed auto with the 1.5 yet, I believe. Nothing stopping them from doing that. It's just a little bit extra R&D work, I'm sure. But anyway, so we'll have to keep in mind, there's still a lot of details here to be cleared up, but I think as far as all the bullet points that we have here so far, it sounds promising. Yes, it would have been nice if they came out of the gate with a 2-liter turbo motor, or all-wheel drive, or a coupe version, or whatever you were expecting, but I think this is a really solid start, and I'm excited to see what they do again with that Type S version. I think that could really, be the one everyone's impressed by, which is the same thing as the Civic. A lot of people aren't impressed by Civic Si, but the Type R is the wow, that's a really cool car kind of thing. So, give it time. Hopefully there will be a performance model, but I think this is, again, a really solid start. The last little bullet point here that is also pretty solid is they say it's going to be starting at about $30,000, and it'll be going on sale sometime next year. 30 grand also isn't bad when you consider it's an Acura. Yes, I know the ILX is a little bit cheaper, but we're talking about a car that, think been very dated, doesn't have half the tech that we already know the Integra is going to have, the manual, all that kind of stuff. So, I think $30,000 makes sense, especially in a world where now a regular Civic Si costs $28,500 almost. $1,500 more, basically. I don't know if it's going to be as loaded as a, Civic Si from the get-go with the Integra at 30 grand, but if it is, and if you get a little bit extra power and you get the hatchback versatility for $1,500 more, essentially, I think that's a win. Yes, I know you can be able to get, a WRX for cheaper. You can get a GR86, which will be faster, most likely, for cheaper. Lots of other options out there, but I don't know. I'm actually, cautiously optimistic about this, and I think that, you know, it has some promise for sure. And who knows when the Type S version is coming, but hopefully it doesn't follow too far behind the regular Integra here. But awesome to see the Integra make a return here, so great to see that. Subaru this week has also partially revealed the Solterra EV in Japan ahead of its US debut, which will be happening next week. So we'll get the US version, all the details for our version here in the States. But at least now we can fully see what it looks like here. And from what we can see, it looks like it only makes a few changes over the Toyota BZ4X that, you know, shares a platform and basically everything with. So the front bumper is more rugged here on the Subaru with fog lights and a faux skid plate. And along with it has like kind of a grille shape that's inset a bit. So should resonate better with SUV buyers, I think. It also gets unique headlights, wheels, and taillights that kind of protrude out a little bit more than on the Toyota versions. It's also hard to say for sure, but it appears that the Solterra gets more rugged, like matte plastic body cladding versus the painted body cladding that the Toyota does get. So that could be a key differentiator too, to again make the Subaru the more rugged one, potentially the slightly cheaper one with, you know, the rougher plastic versus, you know, the nice painted flares you get on the Toyota. The interior also looks like it's gonna be basically the same as the Toyota. They didn't show off any kind of steering yoke like Toyota offers optionally on the BZ4X, but you can see it has more colorful leather seats, but otherwise it's basically the same interior. They also did confirm the specs here for at least the Japanese version, so it will be using the same exact specs as the BZ4X that I talked about, all the specs on that last week, of there being a front-wheel drive version with like 200 horsepower and then an all-wheel drive version that just does 214 horsepower. So I wouldn't expect there to be a front-wheel drive Subaru here in the States. I'm guessing that they will just start out with just doing the all-wheel drive version and that's it. That could also kind of work out for Toyota if Toyota's like, hey, we'll do a front-wheel drive version. Kind of gives you a little more differentiation in between the two, where the Subaru's only all-wheel drive, and for those who want a lower price point, Toyota can come in with a front-wheel drive version and also have a little bit better range probably than the Subaru. So there could be some more, you know, little differentiators here, at least for our market, to kind of separate them. But anyway, so we'll have to see about all the details next week. Kia this week has teased the EV9 with some artistic renderings here before it actually debuts next week. So like most concepts here, you know, it's a little unrealistic, especially on the inside, but it should give us an idea of how they'll style the three-row electric vehicle. Thankfully, you know, Kia's following this trend where they have every single model have distinct and totally different styling from the others. Instead of just doing one theme, it's kind of more of a copy-paste approach. This is everything is a clean sheet design, and I really like that about Kia. And so this looks nothing like a Telluride, even though this will basically be like an electric Telluride, you know, and so hopefully we get more details next week to go along with the concept car. But again, this is just a far out concept. We'll have to wait, I'm sure, for another year or two before we see something that's a little more realistic. But, you know, Kia has been pretty faithful to their concepts in the past. So I'm guessing that, you know, it'll be toned down, but the same basic fundamentals you see here on this concept will translate to the production car. So anyway, cool to see that teaser. Ford this week actually gave the website Bronco Nation a really clear and very high-res look here at the Bronco Raptor that's coming next year. So, you know, we just have camo on the sides, but all the important stuff isn't covered up. So we can see the grille, the headlights, which have the orange DRLs instead of the white DRLs you get on normal Broncos. You can see the flared out fenders that accommodate the 37-inch tires, and the front fenders even also have cooling vents you can see from the one shot there. So that's a cool little touch that might have kind of been hidden by the camo, but I think, you know, it's pretty obvious there's some vents there. There's also unique taillights in the back, which kind of have a, you know, a more 80s vibe to the little, you know, dot LED lights, which is kind of an interesting touch. It almost looks aftermarket, but yeah, I'm not sure why they decided to change taillights over a regular Bronco, but interesting there. Bronco Nation also suggests it's going to be running an upgraded EcoBoost V6, doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 horsepower. So, you know, anyone hoping for a V8, definitely not happening. And so we'll probably get more details, you know, now that Ford is being so forthcoming here with information on it. But the Bronco Nation did reveal it'll be coming next summer. And Ford did reveal a race car Bronco with a V8, but don't get excited. They're only making a handful of those, and they're like 200 grand each, and they're only off-road use. They're not street legal. So I don't really think that that shows that Ford is willing to do a V8. They've already shot down a V8 Bronco repeatedly, so I wouldn't hold your breath for that. But interesting to see that. The YouTube channel Lethal Garage has a new claim this week. They've been having a lot of updates as far as the Camaro and what's going to be going on with the Camaro here in the next few years. It's all still just kind of rumors, and they were the ones that previously mentioned that there's going to be possibly some upgrades to the ZL1, and that really made a lot of sense. This news story this week doesn't make as much sense in my mind. So they're claiming to have a source telling them that Chevy is planning to put the LT2 engine from the C8 Corvette into the Camaro for the 2023 model year. And this would be, the engine that does 495 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. And if it did get put into the Camaro, it could do a little bit less horsepower. Either one, just out of respect for the Corvette and kind of being a little bit lower because they have done that in the past. And also because in the Corvette being the mid-engine setup, you have, shorter exhaust routing. So it can be a little higher tune versus having, more restrictions and stuff, having it run from the front of a Camaro all the way to the back. It could be a little bit detuned for that reason as well. But anyway, if the rumors are true, though, about the Camaro going away in 2024, there's talks of anniversary editions and stuff in 2023, kind of as a final hurrah before the Camaro, rides off into the sunset here. But this seems like a little bit too much of a stretch. I can believe, special packages and colors and all that kind of stuff. That's easy to do. But putting a new engine in a vehicle requires the company to do emissions certification for that engine. Even if that engine has already existed in other things, when you pair it with a new vehicle, it has to go through a whole battery of legalization and testing and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff isn't cheap, and it's expensive to do. And maybe, Chevy's just wanting to really send the Camaro out with a bang, and they don't care about losing tons of money certifying a new engine just for one model year and then having it, go nowhere. But, since the Camaro's already kind of been a disappointment, I think, for Chevy in a lot of ways, from a sales standpoint at least, I feel like adding more pain to the financial proposition of the Camaro here for GM doesn't seem like something they would be eager to do. Maybe the enthusiasts will push it through and this will actually happen. It'd be great to see. But it's also a case of, too little too late. Why didn't they do this a year or two ago whenever the C8s came out? Something to kind of juice Camaro sales instead of just doing it for one last year. We'll have to see. I would love for this to be true. It'd be awesome to have a Camaro that, has more power than the Mustang and the Challenger and kind of have it go out on a high note. But, unless the rumors are wrong and they're planning to keep the Camaro around until maybe 2026, like that has been rumored in the past. If they do keep it around more than one model year, I could potentially see this being something that makes sense, because Lethal Garage also pointed out, it's a simpler thing from a production standpoint. Instead of having multiple different V8s, just throw the same V8 and everything, keeps it a little bit easier, and that could cut costs. And I can see that certainly working out if there's more than one model year here. But if it's only one model year, I don't think they would bother with it. What has Chevy done to the Camaro in the past, couple of years here? Basically nothing, aside from the emergency refresh. So to me, there's a lack of development there, with the Camaro anyway. So I doubt they would be pouring money into it for one model year right before it's killed off. But we'll have to see. But yeah, so very interesting to see that. And thanks to Lethal Garage for reporting that. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Toyota this week has revealed a mild refresh here for the 2022 RAV4. And so basically it just gets new headlights on the XLE and higher trims, along with some new wheel designs. And there's this new Cavalry blue color that's going to be an option on SE, XSE, and TRD off-road models. And then there's also an addition of a new SE hybrid trim for those who want the sportier looks with the hybrid, but they don't want to go up to the XSE. You can now get that here with the SE. So nice to always give people more options. So yeah, that's about it as far as the changes, but I can't blame Toyota for not wanting to change it up too much, considering the RAV4 is still the best-selling vehicle that's not a pickup truck in America, and it's been holding that title for several years, and so you don't want to mess with a good thing. So just swapping headlights, honestly, it's actually more than they did with the Camry. The Camry, didn't even get any kind of styling changes with its little minor refresh. So, I think this is great. I think, it's a logical evolution there for the RAV4. And one other interesting thing. So I was actually on a Q&A conference call with Toyota a few days ago when they revealed this to us journalists and stuff. And I did ask the question about the RAV4 Prime availability, because that's something that, there's been a lot of pent-up demand for. There's crazy markups at dealers just for people trying to get RAV4 Primes. They have to pay $15,000 over a sticker if they want one. And so thankfully, Toyota did say, I asked them about availability for the 2022 model year here, and they say that they're planning to improve the availability for the 2022 model year, and that they will meet the consumer demand which is great to hear. I truly hope that they do meet that demand, so that we can get rid of these silly markups. And, I know that's also just part of the whole chip shortage thing. There's markups on all kinds of stuff that's, shouldn't be marked up. But hopefully they can, get enough of them out there to actually, make it available for anyone who does want it. Because I think that the RAV4 Prime is such a perfect vehicle for people that want to try the electrified thing, but also want to be able to drive across the country at the drop of a hat or live in a rural area. You kind of have the best of both worlds of the RAV4 Prime. So I'm glad that they'll be improving that. Hopefully they really do ramp it up to meet consumer demand. So anyway, as far as the other 2022 RAV4 details, there'll be more details and also pricing, which will be revealed in the middle of December, they said. So anyway, cool to see that. And we actually finally have some concrete news here about the GTR and the next generation of the Nissan GTR this week, thanks to an interview that Autocar did with Nissan CEO. So this is straight from the CEO's mouth. This is as legit as it gets. This is the stuff you can count on as far as what's coming with the next generation GTR. So there's some promising quotes in here, even if there aren't too many specifics, because it sounds like it's still a ways away. But he says, whether we go to a lot of electrification or none at all, we can achieve a lot power-wise. But we're definitely making a new platform. Our goal is clear. The GTR has to be the quickest car of its kind. It has to own the track. It has to play the advanced technology game. But that doesn't mean it has to be electric. He also added that we are looking at how to do it electrified. It's something that's a really professional sports vehicle with no compromise. The Z is for someone like me, he's saying about himself, who enjoys sports cars. The GTR is a professional machine, and we need to work it out for the future. So lots to unpack here with those couple of quotes. So first, we'll be getting a brand new platform. So it's not going to be like the Z where it's just kind of a reskinning and a new engine or something. It's going to be a completely new ground up thing. And it sounds like a kind of project where there is no budget concerns to worry about. Even though Nissan isn't really loaded right now, they're kind of struggling from a financial standpoint, but with the GTR, they're not messing around. It's a vehicle they're very protective of. And so when they say they want it to be world beating again, even if it takes them another 10 years to develop it, I have faith that it will be an amazing vehicle. And that's why they're doing a brand new platform. And so that's very impressive, honestly, for a vehicle that, it ended up being profitable. They have paid off the GTR development costs over the past 14 years. So, it wasn't like it was a losing thing, even though it was very expensive to develop. But so that's exciting. Anyway, also, it's likely going to still be gas-powered here, obviously, based on what he said, at least partially. It sounds like they haven't rolled out the electric thing, but it seems like they're leaning towards, maybe just doing some kind of hybridization thing or just sticking with something that's gas-powered. And so that's kind of an interesting thing because, when they're saying they want to do world-beating performance, that's really hard to do from an acceleration standpoint without having a very strong electric motor. I mean, you look at, obviously the GTR Nismo is still very fast. I think those will do something like a 2.6 seconds 0 to 60. So you're already at basically world-beating performance there all, with that alone. I mean, obviously you have the Tesla Plaid and stuff. If you want to beat the Tesla Plaid, I mean, they're going to have to be 2 seconds or less for the 0 to 60. And doing that on a gas engine, I mean, you can do it, but I mean, maybe if they can do some type of crazy hybrid thing to really give you that awesome launch and then carry it on with, a gas motor that's just insanely powerful. I mean, Nissan engineers are brilliant, especially the GTR engineers. So I have total faith they can actually do this, but they're going to be doing it in a very different approach from the rest of the world, basically, if this doesn't come for another 5 years when everything's basically going towards electric. If they don't, that'll be very interesting and could potentially really set this apart from other, high-end sports cars out there. So that's interesting. And also, as far as the design, Nissan's designer told Autocar, it doesn't care what every other supercar in the world is doing. It simply says, I'm a GTR, I'm a brick, catch me. It's the world's fastest brick, really, he says. And when he reviews sketches for the new car, I say that a lot. Less wing, more brick. So it sounds like it could be inspired by really the first generation of the GTR back in the late 60s. But Autocar seems to think that it'll kind of have the R32 as its design inspiration, which, yeah, is kind of blocky, but also kind of had this streamlined, late 80s, early 90s kind of vibe going to it as well. So we'll see which way it goes. But considering how, they really went back to the 70s for the front end, at least on the new Z and stuff, we'll see what ends up happening. But pretty cool. And so the only other thing is there's no timeline given for, when we can expect this new generation. But if they're still trying to figure out even what's going to power it, I mean, we are ways away, because I mean, once they finally do make that decision, then, you know, even if, you know, the styling and stuff could all be ready to go, but, you know, especially, you know, you look at other Japanese vehicles, and especially like the GTRs, how long they were under development and testing them extensively. You know, especially with Japanese sports cars, they really take their time to perfect them. So, you know, honestly, I'd be shocked if this came before 2025. You know, I'm guessing it could even be after that, you know, by a good bit. So, but, you know, good things take time, and so this sounds like it's going to be very impressive, and if you're a GTR fan, definitely well worth waiting for. And now you have plenty of years to, you know, save up or do whatever you need to do to get one of these, because I'm sure it will not be cheap if it's going to be, again, world-beating performance. You know, count on this thing being, it could even end up being 200 grand or something. So we'll have to see. But anyway, very interesting to hear all that. And some other product news here about future products. Alfa Romeo CEO talked with Autocar and Auto Express about their future models here this week. So first up, Auto Express confirmed the Giulia will be getting a new generation, and it'll be all electric. So it's going to probably be one of the first electric vehicles to actually show up for Alfa Romeo. It'll be on the Stellantis STLA large platform, which, if you remember, whenever Stellantis revealed all their electric platforms, I'll link that video if you're curious about, you know, what every platform is. Anyway, for this, you know, Giulia to be on that platform, it's most likely going to grow in size, because it's kind of a big platform for its next generation. And that also makes sense. I mean, all these sports sedans do grow, but, you know, this could actually turn it into something like a mid-sized sports sedan instead of a compact sports sedan. But the platform also means that it'll have a battery from either 101 kilowatt hours to 118 kilowatt hours, which is kind of on the upper range of what you see on most, you know, mainstream EVs currently. And so that should be lots of range and lots of power as well, because one of the people developing this platform is actually one of the people that developed the Quadrifoglio GTA, the hardcore, you know, crazy version of the Quadrifoglio. So you have someone like that working on this, you can definitely bank on there being some performance, you know, baked into this platform here. And we know that the platform does support 402 horsepower electric motors on each axle. So we're talking 804 horsepower potentially. Obviously, that, you know, is an extreme case. You know, we'll see what ends up getting that kind of setup. Most likely some kind of new Dodge Demon or something. But as far as the Giulia, you know, I think, you know, even if they just did a mix of different motors, give it, you know, something over 500 horsepower, you're already kind of, you know, at least at that Quadrifoglio level, if not higher. And so should be very promising, and they say the next gen Giulia should be showing up around 2024, so only a couple more years here to wait. And Autocar, in their interview, they talked about other models that Alfa's working on with the new model. A new model is going to be coming, they say, every year here between now and 2025. So lots of new stuff here coming. And the first one to come will be the Tonale small crossover, which will finally be coming next spring. That's been delayed. It was supposed to come out this fall. So that'll be coming next spring. And we'll see what comes after that. But the CEO also revealed that he'd love to make a new Spider Duetto, and actually said they went as far as to do a full design on it, and they showed it to dealers. So they basically already have the car ready to go, you know, at least from a conceptual standpoint. But they say they need to have success with their other models first before they can attempt to put something like that into production. And that makes sense. You know, you can't have a little two-door convertible that's going to sell, you know, a few hundred units or a few thousand units here in the States. You know, you can't justify something like that until you really have a lot of success. And so hopefully, you know, they can. I mean, I know that the electric platforms will really help to make things, you know, a little bit more cost effective, but still. They also mentioned that a new GTV model is on their wish list as well, for something that Alfa would love to bring back. Again, if they can, you know, afford to do some type of two-door coupe that will sell in very small volumes, then that's something they'd also love to do. So, I mean, clearly, like, Alfa wants to do the fun stuff. It's just that, hey, we got to make the compact SUVs and stuff because that's what everyone buys, and it's just the realities of this world currently. So, good to know that they do have plans for the fun stuff if the money allows. So, cool to see that. Lotus this week has teased their next model coming, which is the electric SUV. Again, talking about the realities of, you know, this current world here. You know, Lotus working on an electric SUV, but hopefully it'll be cool. It's called the Type 132, And it looks pretty promising from this little teaser shot here. We can see these hexagonal active grille shutters and an angular bumper with lots of carbon fiber, and that's it. So it's supposed to launch next year, and so hopefully we hear more about it soon. Now they're starting to ramp up the teasers and stuff. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Ferrari this week has revealed a new customer commissioned one-off model called the BR20. So it's based on a GTC4 Lusso, actually, complete with that car's V12 and all-wheel drive. But they got rid of the hatch and the rear seats, and now it has this sloping fastback that's been put in its place, giving it a longer A12 Superfast kind of look to me, with several unique features here to set it apart from a normal production Ferrari. So it looks really nice, honestly, and I believe this is the only all-wheel drive V12 coupe that Ferrari's ever done. And I don't know who this buyer is, but I have to commend their taste. It's a beautiful car as well, but just to have, you know, the awesomeness of the GTC4 Lusso in a coupe form is really cool. I still think a GTC4 Lusso is cooler with the hatch and stuff, but if you don't like the hatch, you know, or maybe they already have that and then they're adding this to the stable, but you know, that's super cool to have V12 with all-wheel drive in a coupe. Rock on, whoever you are. And so very cool combo, and we don't have any kind of word as far as, you know, how much it costs, however many millions of dollars it costs to commission this, but I'm sure that whoever is the new owner is going to be very, very happy with it. So cool to see that. And there's an interesting development here with the whole chip shortage thing this week from BMW. So if you've ordered or plan to order a BMW 3 Series, 4 Series, X5, X6, X7, or Z4, you might want to either cancel your order or wait and just try and find something either on the lot or wait until this whole chip shortage thing is done and over with, because BMW this week has announced that due to the chip shortage, all those models I just listed are currently shipping with no touchscreen functionality. So you go back to only having the rotary knob, and that's it. A lot of BMW fans I know love the knob, and it's fine, but if you're someone who wants the touchscreen, you know, you're going to be missing out on it. And BMW did say they're giving a $500 discount to people that, you know, have one of these or buy one of these to make up for that. But $500 is not going to cover the depreciation hit from having, you know, a very much less desirable BMW, because, you know, a lot of people do like that touchscreen thing these days. And so, you know, be like, oh, it's one of the ones without the touchscreen, pass. You know, unless dealers are giving enormous discounts on these, I don't see why anyone would want to buy one of these. Even if you, again, are happy not having a touchscreen, you know, it's just not going to be good from a resale standpoint. They're going to be so much less desirable. So that's a huge decision. You know, you would think they would have tried to pull it from somewhere else or pull it from the non-mainstream models or something, but anyway, kind of crazy there. So that might really shoot BMW in the foot as far as sales for their biggest sellers and really cut into their sales volumes here, you know, for the next few months. But interesting to hear that, and hopefully gives you guys a heads up if any of you have an order out there. Another interesting little development here. So Ford has announced that in a partnership here with Purdue University, they have a patent pending on a new vapor-cooled charging cable that would allow them to quadruple the electric current that the cables can handle, which Ford believes could actually get a full recharge time down to about 5 minutes on a compatible car. This is without any kind of solid state advancements or anything. It seems like this is something that, you know, if they can just allow the vehicle to accept a faster charge, they can actually do that, which is very impressive. So basically the cable uses a coolant that goes from liquid to vapor, and it's similar in principle to what you see on air conditioners and refrigerators actually, and it's still in development, and Ford says they've completed an early step in the project, so still kind of in the early stages here, but you know, they do have a patent pending on it, so it's at least finalized with its design. They plan to test a prototype over the next 2 years, so you know, it's going to be a while, like I said. So after 2 years of testing, maybe we'll start to slowly see these things roll out to chargers that, you know, but again, we still have to wait for cars that can actually handle, you know, charging speeds that fast. You know, I don't think there's very many out there that can even do that. Maybe the Taycan could do it, something like that, but that's about it. So anyway, very interesting to hear that little development here, and just shows how, you know, now that everyone's pouring money into EV development, this stuff's going to get better really, really quick. And so that's why everyone's skeptical, like, oh, where's the infrastructure? You know, these cars are not set up in there. It's, if anyone who has those complaints, you know, about infrastructure and stuff, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen in the next few years to make it very accessible, very easy, and, you know, make a lot more sense than it might right now for a lot of people. So very interesting to hear that. And some other car technology news here. In the new infrastructure package that the United States has passed here, there's a new mandate for car companies to roll out some form of technology to stop drunk driving. And the first vehicles that are expected to feature this technology will be showing up around 2026, so still a few years. In the next 5 years here, the Transportation Department will be assessing which technology is the best one to go to market with, that they want to actually implement. But don't worry, it's not like you're going to have to blow into a tube every time you want to start up your car. It's not going to be anything like that. They know that people aren't going to go for that. And they actually say that that kind of defeats what they're going for. What they're actively trying to go for is passively monitoring the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether that driver may be impaired. Which means they'll most likely be using existing technology like the infrared cameras you see on Cadillac Super Cruise, Ford Blue Cruise. You know, all these, there's a lot of cars that already have cameras that monitor you to, you know, help with that kind of stuff. And, you know, not only are they, you know, be helping with the drunk driving thing, but also, you know, if you have a medical emergency and you pass out behind the wheel or you're having some kind of issue, the car will notice that and safely pull you over instead of having you, you know, careening into oncoming traffic and killing yourself, you know. So I think that this could really be a great thing. And not only just for that, but I mean, also just the drunk driving thing is huge. I mean, because they potentially 10,000 people a year could be saved, because that's how many people actually die, you know, from drunk driving related crashes every year. And that would drop traffic fatalities by about 30%. And traffic fatalities have really been skyrocketing the past few years. So, you know, this could really, really help to get those down. I mean, drunk driving is something that's terrible. And so if they can do something that's passive and, you know, not too intrusive to get rid of that, basically, that would be amazing. And so, yeah. The only, you know, downside is, of course, the more technology you pack into a car, the higher the prices go. Same thing whenever automatic emergency braking was kind of something that was really pushed here in the past few years. Prices went up because you have all those extra chips, all that extra technology, the extra weight, you know, and so, you know, you can already tell, like, for example, with the Ford Mustang Mach-E, where, you know, you could originally get it without the Blue Cruise tech, and then, you know, if you add on the Blue Cruise tech like you can on a GT Mach-E now, I think it's like $1,500 extra. So, you know, expect car prices to maybe go up another $1,000 or $1,500 or something like that whenever this is incorporated into them. So it's not a huge thing. Honestly, if it gets rid of drunk driving, you know, I think that, you know, another $1,000 is a small price to pay for that improvement. So I think that's actually very exciting, as long as it's, again, implemented well and is pretty reliable. So anyway, very exciting to hear that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.